You have been covering the Africa Cup of Nations. The finals will be held tomorrow, and I'm sure for someone who covers the English Premier League, it takes on an exciting context because two of the Premier League's leading attackers will be facing each other, and I'm talking about Mane and Salah. Generally, how would you um, assess the performance of the two teams? Are they the two best teams in the tournament?
First of all, I don't think it's just Premier League fans that will be hoping to enjoy Sadio Mane versus Mo Salah. I think it's everywhere, almost globally, especially in Africa. They're probably the two biggest stars of the moment across the continent. So that battle those coming up against each other is going to be something that everybody is going to be enjoyed. Are they the best two teams in the tournament? No. I don't think they've been the most consistent. I've seen some teams play better. For example, I think Nigeria in the group stage played very well. I think Cameroon have probably been the most consistent team. They've played probably more good games than anybody else, but came up short against Egypt. I think Senegal struggled at the start because they were missing some of their key players, Edouard Mendy, Kalidou Koulibaly, Ismail Assar, and I think those guys coming into the team has seen them gradually improve during the tournament. They did what they needed to do to get through the group stage, and they've slowly been improving. And I think, the game against Burkina Faso was their best game so far. They started really connecting. As for Egypt, they haven't really impressed in football styles. They haven't played stylish football. They haven't played nice football. But they also have got the job done when they needed to get the job done to get through the group stage. They bounced back from that loss to Nigeria, which people were kind of surprised people because I don't think people gave Nigeria much of a chance before the tournament. But Egypt have bounced back, and I think they know how to manage a game. I think that's the secret for them is in that semi-final, Cameroon were on top. They started to try and disrupt the game a little bit, disrupt the flow that Cameroon had, some more physical challenges, some bit longer spent on the ground with injuries, those kind of little things that are all part of how you manage a football game so that you can disrupt the opposition, take advantage of that. And, and as it got further in and, didn't look like there was going to be a goal, the more they were happy to hang on for penalties. So, yeah, I don't think they're the best two teams. They both showed excellence in different areas, shall we say. I think Senegal, we know, have the team to play great football. Egypt plays some nice football, but they also know how to manage a game. But overall, Cameroon were the most consistent team, I think, for me, playing more good games than anybody else.
Okay. You know Senegal are in their second finals in a row, back to back. Sometimes that could play on the minds of the players. They lost the last finals against Algeria. They have another chance to do it right this time. Do you think that will serve as a motivation, or you think that could be a psychological block for them going into this final?
I think it's probably a bit of an advantage for them. They know what it's like to play in a final. A lot of them were there. Aliou Cisse, the coach, was there. So they kind of look back and know what they did wrong in that final against Algeria. They didn't, again, come to the party, really. They had their chances. I mean, Algeria scored after, I think, 1 minute, 2 minutes. So they had plenty of time to get back into that game. And I think they've probably grown as a team since then. I think they've improved as a team, and again during this tournament they have been getting better. So I think they can use it as a motivation and use it as a learning curve. Something that they know that we've been here before. We know what we're doing. It's a long time since Egypt have been in a final like this. So it's going to be a learning experience from 2019. I think it actually could play as a big advantage for Senegal to know what they're going to be dealing with when they walk into that stadium on Sunday evening. So yeah, it's obviously there'll be pressure. And again, I think this is always the thing with football, how to balance the pressure and the motivation, how to use the pressure as a motivation. And I think that, and it's just that's the key to it. That's how you have to balance it. So yes, there will be pressure, but I think a little bit of motivation. They've never won it before. They want to win it for the first time. Senegal have been the #1 team in Africa for 3 years now. We all know Senegal's history in Africa, especially the last 20 years since that 2002 World Cup. And for them, they need to win that tournament to put themselves up there amongst the likes of Ghana, Nigeria, Algeria, Egypt, and Cameroon, because I think until they've won it, people will always see Senegal as almost not quite in that same group of those big teams that have won this tournament.
Right. For Egypt, most of their knockout games have traveled into the extra time and all of that. Do you think in this final that could prove very costly, because you would have tired legs, you would have very tired players going into this final?
Yes, definitely. I think that's a big factor. 3 120-minute games and penalties. You talk about the physical tiredness of running for all that time, and it's quite warm here. I mean, the last game was a bit cooler, but obviously in the heat as well. That's very, very difficult. But the emotional tied on them as well, because playing 120 minutes. The first one went to penalties. The semi-final went to penalties. So that's always a very mentally tiring thing as well. And even in the Morocco game, they had to come from behind. They were 1-0 down. So again, mentally and physically, it's very, very tiring for the Egyptians. And the other big thing I think for Egypt is the fact that Carlos Queiroz will not be on the bench on Sunday evening after he got his red card. I think the coach, the assistant coaches insisted after the semi-final it wouldn't matter, that they could cope with that, etc. But I think it will have an impact. And talking about that assistant coach, you mentioned you talked about the tiredness, and it's playing on them mentally already, because the first thing they said after the semi-final in the press conference, the assistant coach Dia El Sayed said it twice. He made a passionate, well, not passionate, but a plea to CAF to postpone the game to Monday, because Senegal have had an extra day. It was quite a strange thing for him to say, because it's not going to happen. There's so much invested in terms of satellite time and people here, journalists, the technicians on the ground in the stadiums, the cameramen, all of that, so much invested that, it can't make sense to move the final. But for them to come out and say, oh no, and kind of almost admit we're tired, almost admit before the game that they've got an issue, it was a bit of a strange thing for me.
Okay. I'll ask you about your predictions for the final game, but generally, how would you rate this tournament? There was a lot of uncertainty whether Cameroon was ready with the infrastructure and everything in place to host the tournament, but it appears we have only 24 hours before the tournament ends. How would you rate the tournament?
So let's do it from two perspectives, logistics and the tournament and putting on a show. This is my 7th Africa Cup of Nations, and I think every single one I've been to is the thing that everybody wants to see, what the supporters want to see. The football on the pitch has been getting the football played is the most important thing in stadiums that will accept it. So that has happened again. There's been no real issues around the football. Behind the scenes, maybe 1 or 2 issues. There's whether there's enough things like Wi-Fi and things like that for journalists and fans and stuff. There's those small things that will frustrate journalists and fans, but really the supporter back home, they don't care about us. All they want to do is make sure they can watch football on the television. So that's the main thing. And that's the same at nearly every Africa Cup of Nations, is that there's a lot of time and effort spent making sure that the footballing infrastructure's ready to go, that sometimes possibly the other infrastructure is not so good. The organization behind the scenes is not so good. We've obviously got to point out that the security problems with the Olembe Stadium, when 8 people tragically lost their lives outside a football game, which should never, ever, ever happen. So it's hopeful that people in the future will learn, because the semi-final went off without a hitch. There were a lot less fans there, admittedly, but more fans could have come in. I think the procedures were in place in that game. So it begs the question, why not have those same procedures all the way through the tournament and make sure that that safety is there? So that is something that definitely people in the future need to learn, is how you can secure and safely get people in and out of a ground when you know there's going to be big numbers. You know, we're in a passionate Africa's, home games are always going to be the difficult ones. So that's where you need that safety and security. So I think that that is definitely a lesson that everybody has to learn. The other slight problems that fans and journalists have, that's part and parcel of what we put up with when we travel to these tournaments. On the pitch, my assessment would be it's been a good tournament. I mean, I've enjoyed it. There's been very nice stories about the smaller teams, Malawi, Comoros, Equatorial Guinea, the Gambia, especially those 4 getting into the last 16. Huge. But the thing that really impressed me was all of them played good football. I've seen in the past where these so-called smaller teams grab a draw or a win with a bit of luck, with a bit of things going their way and disrupting and stuff like that. But I thought all the teams here, all those 4 teams especially, played some really, really nice football. They were there to be positive. They were there to play themselves, to win, to go out and score goals rather than just hold on for the draw. So those are the kind of 2 things I would say. From infrastructure, the stadiums here, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Shame about the pitch in Douala. Some problems off the pitch with journalists and people traveling in. But safety, security, the thing that I think everybody needs to take away from this tournament and make sure that it is done properly. We know it can be done. It's just a matter of logistics and thinking ahead and putting things in place.
Nick, finally, I know you're not a coach, but if you were to make a prediction, which team is winning and where do you think their game will be lost and won?
I'm not very, I'll admit, okay, the prediction's not my strong point in this tournament so far. I had Algeria to win. They went out in the group stage. I had Ghana beating Comoros at least 3 or 4-0 and finishing second in their group. That didn't work out for me. I had Nigeria beating Tunisia and going a long way in this tournament. That didn't work out for me. Anyway, so looking at it, I think Senegal should be the stronger team. They've got no real problems in terms of injuries and things like that. And they've got Ismaila Sarr coming back into the team, which is a massive boost. They know that they can play some nice football. So I would have them slight favourites because Egypt have some problems. They're probably going to use Gabaski again. He's played very, very well. He, as a reserve goalkeeper, Mohamed El Shanawi, their first choice keeper, is still here, but I don't know whether he's going to be fit enough to play. We've already lost Ahmed Hegazi, the kind of main guy in that back four for Egypt, the guy that's the kind of rock that the defense is built around, especially when you've got people like Abdel Melnem, who's only 20. Those guys need that kind of leadership, so they've lost that as well. And as I say, Kirosh not being on that bench to give those immediate instructions and tell people what to do is a loss as well. But having said that, I think Egypt have got a good enough team to cause trouble for Senegal. And I think I said last night to a colleague or to another radio station, the one thing we have not seen at this tournament so far is a bit of Mohamed Salah magic on the edge of the area to curl into the top corner and score a goal. So that could well be on the cards. And I guess if that was to happen early again, that could cause a problem for Senegal, because I think Egypt will try and manage that situation. So I have Senegal as slight favourites, but I can't rule out Egypt, especially when you've got that man Mohamed Salah to inspire. The other interesting thing could be fans, could be spectators. The Egyptians for the semi-final flew in 1,000 fans from Cairo, and they made themselves heard. And when I watched them in the semi-final, those fans really did inspire the quarterfinal against Morocco. the quarterfinal against Morocco, they really did inspire Mohamed Salah. When he went and played directly in front of them, the noise was absolutely incredible. So the fans could make it a bit of an issue as well, because it won't be a full stadium, not the host nation. But if Egypt fly in quite a few of those vociferous fans, if Senegal do the same, we could have a very interesting atmosphere. But Senegal are my slight favourites, but Egypt have every chance. When you've got Mohamed Salah, you can't rule them out. And let's face it, they do have some other very, very good players as well. The Trezeguet El Nene has been playing very, very well. I'm not saying Egypt's a one-man team, but we all know that he does have that ability to change a team, change a game in seconds. So, but with the people around him, they do have a chance. But overall, Senegal have got the slightly stronger squad. I mean, Saliou Ciss and Mane down the left there have been playing very, very well. I keep getting them mixed up. I keep thinking Saliou Ciss is Sadio Mane. The way he moves and jinks and moves it, I keep thinking, that's Saliou Ciss. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating final, I think.
All right, Nick, thank you very much for your time, and enjoy the remainder of your time in Cameroon. And we'll talk again.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Daniel.
All right.
Cheers.
Bye.